What is up, guys? It is currently like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, and we are going to record another beer review. So, this one is going to be another video in the Torture Trials saga. And it's one that I've been kind of putting off because I really hate this beer. But I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt because this beer and I have almost as bad a history as me and Ice. So let's get down to it. The beer we are going to be reviewing today is Bud Light Platinum. And this beer has got to be one of the most overhyped, over-publicized, popular, and in my opinion the biggest contradiction and oxymoron in beer history right here. So this beer came out, if I'm remembering correctly, 2010. It was promoted very heavily during the Super Bowl, okay? And Anheuser-Busch was hyping it really, really hardcore. They were hyping it up big time with all these commercials and everything before the Super Bowl. And then it got released, if I remember correctly, like a week before the Super Bowl, maybe a couple days. And they had a big old commercial during the Super Bowl. And it was supposed to be the next big thing in beer. And it really kind of isn't, but because Anheuser-Busch, with the backing of InBev, the big beer conglomerate, with them having the clout from InBev to market it as well as they did, it has had a ridiculous turnout, almost a cult following, like malt liquor status following for this beer right here. Now, this beer and then Beck's Sapphire were released at the same time, and Beck's is also owned by InBev. It's essentially the same beer, and then they tried to do the same thing with the Black Crown, and then Miller tried to get on board with that. Oh, I don't even know if you can buy it anymore. I'll have to look it up, but they tried to top Bud, and it was like 7.6 or something. You know, it's like a spirited beer. Essentially, it's just a malt liquor, but it is what it is. But yeah, the clout from InBev made this beer possible, and made it popular. It's really not super crazy. It's 6% alcohol by volume. And this can, man, it's fucking impossible to read because it's a silver can with slightly darker silver accents, where all the lettering is on the bottom. So, like, you can see just barely, it says Anheuser-Busch right there. 6% alcohol by volume, triple filtered, light beer. So, let's get down to the whole oxymoron contradiction statement that I made earlier. This beer is advertised as a light beer. This is Bud Light Platinum, and it says light on the bottle, or on the can, twice, maybe more. But no, three times it says light. Four times it says light on this can, okay? This is not a light beer, and you'll see that when I pour it. This is 6% alcohol by volume, and the calories on it are doesn't say, of course. Oh, calories. 137 calories per 12-ounce serving, and 4.6 carbohydrates. This is a 25-ounce can, so there is 274 calories in this. And y'all can go look up the specs, but this is not a light beer. And we will talk more about it when I pour it, but it's not. Okay? Now, this is the tall boy. This can, it's tasteful. I mean, it's hard as hell to read, but it looks okay. I still prefer the blue bottles better. Those were the coolest fucking thing. You know, when they came out with the blue bottles, people shat themselves and was like, oh, I gotta buy it. And I bought way too much of it and drank way too much of it. Yeah, back in the day. So, let's go ahead and get down to pouring this. Torture Trials. So we're using the newly unveiled in the last video, I think, or the video before that maybe. Torture Trials, ginormous, massive freaking mug. I mean, like, look at how big this damn thing is. Look at that. Talk about fitting a whole tall boy in there. Now, this is they don't say it on here, but this is the Anheuser-Busch Budweiser plus 1 ounce can, you know, that gimmick. Ugh, I hate gimmicks, but this is the Torture Trials. I gotta be fair to this beer. So, let's be fair, shall we? And these 25 ounce cans always pour so terribly. Like, I don't understand. What the heck? There we go. Pop, pop, fizz, fizz. Something's floating in my beer. There we go. Okay. We're good. Head, absolutely none. Color is Budweiser in color. It's not quite as light in color as Bud Light is. It looks more like Budweiser. Smells like Bud Light, but it has a little bit extra sweetness from it. That's probably from the added alcohol, because your regular Bud Lights are 4.5. This is 6, so it's a little bit more stout than Bud Light, or a bit more stout than Bud Light, considerably more stout than, or not considerably, god dang it, considerably more stout than Bud Light, and a little bit more stout than Budweiser. I'm sorry, I promise I haven't had anything to drink. My brain is just today, so. But yeah, head's gone completely. It's just bubbly as all get out. I know y'all can see that. If we put it in the same Smith glass, it'd be Tornado City. So, let's get a sip. Oh. Oh. God, man. And I'm trying so hard to be fair to this beer. Oh, I got a haircut. I don't look as scraggly as I did in the last couple videos. Yeah, a different person cut my hair today. It's close to what it normally is, but it's not quite on par with what I normally get, but it'll last. My hairdresser has never missed a haircut in the last 2.5 years, and then she decided, you know, she was going to have today off, and I have to have my hair cut tomorrow because I have to look good tomorrow, because we got big boss people coming tomorrow, so I got to make sure I'm representing Discount Tire and myself in the best light possible, and she can't cut my hair. So, it is what it is, but it's not too bad. So let's get another sip on this beer, and we'll talk about something that happened at work the other day that was kind of funny and shitty at the same time. Oh my god. Oh. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm using this kickstand case to hold the phone up. The phone has a case that has a kickstand on it. It's holding the phone up. But let's get on with the taste. It's Bud Light right up the front, okay? It tastes like Bud Light. But then the alcohol sweetness takes over completely, and it gets nasty. And then you get the vegetable-y Bud Light aftertaste. But what really tricks your brain is the mouthfeel is not like Bud Light. The carbonation is not like Bud Light. So it's very confusing. You know, you're reading Bud Light, Bud Light, Bud Light, and it reminisces Bud Light, but it truly is not Bud Light. So kind of kind of a contradiction, if you will. So, here we go again. So, for those of you that haven't had Bud Light, first, it's the carbonation and a little bit of corn and maybe some malt. Then it turns into like, the best way I can compare it is like asparagus flavor. And that's what I mean when I say it's Bud Light at the beginning, because that's what it tastes like. Then the alcohol sweetness kicks in like you would have with any other malt liquor. And it's very present. It's not hidden. Whereas some malt liquors that I have are very graceful as far as their alcohol dispersion. You know, it comes and goes, and it's not offensive. This stuff, I can't say the same thing. Then towards the end, it's more of that asparagus-y flavor, and it's not light by any stretch of the imagination. Now, some people will argue, well, it's not as heavy as Budweiser, it's not as heavy as Coors Original. Shut up. Shut up with that shit. This is not a light beer. Quit calling it a light beer. Okay? If it was a light beer, it'd have less calories, it'd have under 100 a serving, or right at 100 calories a serving, and it wouldn't be freaking 6% alcohol by volume. So that's what I have to say to you about that. Now, as far as ratings go, out of all of the beers that I've had in the Torture Trial series, and there's been a lot, I can't even remember how many we've done. This one, like I said, I've been putting it off because I really didn't want to do it. But I'm going to try to be fair here. I'm going to get one more sip and just try to give this the best rating I can fairly, unbiasedly give it. Okay? So that y'all don't think that I'm knocking it because it's Anheuser-Busch, or that I'm not giving it a good go because I have past experience with this beer that wasn't great. Fuck. Oh. Man, I'm gonna have to give this thing like a D. And that's being fair. This thing should have never existed, okay? Bud Ice, which, for all intents and purposes, is a more well-rounded, economy high ABV beer than this is. One, because this is not an economy beer. If you go buy a 6-pack of it, it's just as expensive as anything else. Okay? 2, Bud Ice doesn't kid around about what it is. It doesn't try to make itself seem like it's better than it is. When you buy Bud Ice, you know what you're getting. Okay? If you know anyone and you're not into cheap beers and you ask somebody, hey, what do you think of Bud Ice? They are going to give you their opinion of it, and I can guarantee you what that opinion is going to be, and that's that. Okay? Bud Ice was not overhyped except for in the 90s, back when ice beer was a big deal. So it's really hard for me to give this any better than a D, because it takes the worst of Bud Light and makes it worse. In my opinion, Bud Light, as far as economy beers go, is nowhere close to the best. There's Pabst Blue Ribbon, there's Busch, there's Miller High Life, there's Coors Original, hell, Coors Light even. There's so many better options if you're spending that kind of money than Bud Light, in my opinion. Okay? I am giving this a fair, unbiased review as best I can, and I'm trying to set all my biases aside with this beer, but I cannot find anything in this beer as far as taste, color, mouth texture, aroma goes to give it any better than a D, because the Torture Trials even in malt liquors, has seen far better. That Colt 4540, I'd much rather be drinking that right now. I'd much rather be drinking a Mickey's. I would much rather be having a Miller High Life or even a Hurricane High Gravity right now than this damn thing. So, it is what it is. If you get mad because you don't like my review of Bud Light Platinum, then I'm sorry. But it gets a D. It's... And that's all I really have to say about that. Now, on to the thing that happened at work. I'm going to have to lift the camera up so that y'all can see this. But... right there, okay? That is a little bitty hole in my lip. And the other day at work, I decided it would be a good idea to put a screwdriver almost completely through my lip. A flathead screwdriver. And, yeah, so kids, be careful when you're playing with tools, because even people that work with tools can make mistakes, okay? So that's my disclaimer. Kids, don't play with tools unless you have adult supervision, and we'll see you in the next one. This is Bud Light Platinum Torture Trials. It gets a D. Adios.